Imagine tomorrow somebody can call your borrower saying, "Hey, this is Shashank calling, and your social was wrong on the application. It seems. What's your correct social? And while I have you on the phone, can you confirm your date of birth as well, or whatever that personal information is?" And by the way, they can take a podcast like this, so where I'm speaking for 20 minutes, can create my voice Sloan. We had one instance which was pretty crazy, and our borrower was actually worked for Yahoo, and he worked in a director of information security or something of a similar title at Yahoo, and he was our borrower. He was supposed to wire, I think, $34,000 or something at closing, and he goes to the bank, he wires the funds. He texts me saying, "I wired the fund," and I said, "Okay, where did you wire it?" Then "Yeah, I'll send you the details." And we look at it and we're like, that's not where you were supposed to wire. Where did you get that wiring information from? He said, "It came from your processor. I have an email."
Welcome to Plain Talk Cyber. I'm George Bakaloff, your host. On this podcast, we're going to break down complex cybersecurity concepts into easy to understand language, so you as a business owner, especially small, medium-sized businesses, you as a business leader can understand how to best protect your business, your data, your online reputation, your customers, everything that concerns you when it comes to cyber attacks and cyber protection. Stay tuned and let's learn together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Plain Talk Cyber. I'm George Bakaloff, your host, and I'm really excited. I just, first of all, want to say thank you for those of you who have liked the podcast on Spotify. I think I have now over a dozen favorites, or whatever they call them these days. So I appreciate that. Whatever platform you're listening on, if you give me like 5 stars or, a thumbs up or favorite, whatever it's called, I really appreciate that. So thank you so much, everyone. Plain Talk Cyber here is, today we're blessed to have Shashank Shekhar. And I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, so I'll give you a chance to clarify that.
I'll fix it, yes.
But I got Shashank right. But he has an amazing story, and I like to jump right to it because we have no time to waste. And I'm sure wherever you're listening into the program, you have no time to waste. So the whole idea here is to really break down cybersecurity concepts, but to really get cybersecurity out of the way, so to say. The audience here is business owners, executives, leaders, entrepreneurs, like in your case, to really see the world through your eyes, because what's important to you is not firewalls and phishing alerts. What's important to you is go and get business, get some great ideas out, and for us, for folks like myself, for us to help you achieve that without becoming victimized by all sorts of criminals and bad actors out there. So let me just take it back to you, Shashank. Great to have you on the pod. Tell us a little bit about who you are. You're a pioneer already in your field. I know that. And I read about your story, but I'll give you a chance a little bit to make an introduction and then tell the audience who you are.
Yeah, happy to. First of all, congratulations on all those favorites and likes. And it's when you run a podcast, that's one thing that you want is for people to find value from it. And it's great that your podcast is reaching more people and they're liking the content that you're producing, and hope we can add on to that with this today's show. As George said, my name is Shashank, and I am 3 times founder and CEO. I started my mortgage company in 2008 when nobody wanted to start a mortgage company, and I was new to the country. I was about 18 months in the US that time, and no capital, no connections, and then went on to then start an AI company and a fintech company called InstaRefi and Insta AI. I also recently published a book on AI called Let AI Be Your Coach, which is an Inc. original. So it's published by the same group that publishes Inc. magazine. And the book went on to become an international bestseller recently. So hopefully
Wonderful.
That gives you
Congratulations
some context.
to you.
Thank you, George. But yeah, not much about firewalls and phishing scams, as George was saying. Not exactly my strength.
No, that's exactly what I want. I really feel like in our industry sometimes, because it is vast, there are just so many things going on when it comes to understanding the technical domain and how that plays out in everyday life. I mean, just think for a minute, and if you're a very technological person. Your whole life has been basically involved with the internet and the internet technologies and web. And it's created wealth, and it's enabled so many things for regular people to get them fast. But at the same time, that the speed that we do business with and the convenience that comes with it also has just created vast opportunities for bad characters, for the bad actors to come in and take advantage of gullible people. I've been spending a lot of time in just researching, internet crime, cybercrime, also realizing I'm working with a lot of businesses that, just are they're missing the fact that their employees, for example, are their greatest asset. And how do we protect my employees? So it's one thing to protect the business, the corporate entity, but how do we protect people now? So tell us a little bit about the industry and how you pioneer technology, and then maybe we can sneak in some questions about security that go along the line. But you, as a pioneer, tell us exactly how you pioneer the concept of in the mortgage industry specifically with what you did.
Yeah, you're right. Even though I don't exactly have technical background, meaning I did not go to college studying software engineering or such. When I started my mortgage business, I saw that as one of the differentiators, is because if you put your minds back to 2008, 2009, and if you had experience getting a mortgage, you'll remember that you had to walk to a bank or fax your documents or bring the documents in person. That was the only way to kind of meet in person your loan officer or lender. And we started online application back in 2009, which was one of the first to do that. I started from a content perspective. I started blogging the same year when I was probably one of the first 5 mortgage bloggers in the country. So both from content creation and educating people to giving them the platform where they can complete a loan application at 10 p.m. in the night if they wanted to, or 6 a.m. in the morning, and did not have to walk into a mortgage office to do that. We pioneered that quite a lot, which helped us, especially where we are headquartered in Silicon Valley, to reach out to tech-savvy customers who were kind of frustrated with this process of being in person, take the time off from their work, carry the documents in person when they could have done all of this electronically. We were able to facilitate that, automatic status updates to them, their real estate agents. So a lot of things that we did was first, if not, or maybe one of the first in the industry. And then later, during my career, I was able to again build the first digital human in the mortgage industry, which was well before people were talking about AI. We did this almost 4 or 5 years back.
You
And
had
that was
if I can interrupt you, you had like like a AI character, if I remember.
yes,
Tell us about that.
yes. Yeah, it was an AI character, and not just a character like just a fancy visual character, but she, if I can call her she or it or
Yeah.
whatever, was trained on everything mortgages and InstaMortgage. So we used Google Dialog Box, which was a very basic AI version at that time. It was very difficult to train that model, so a lot of it was manual entry. But yeah, you could talk to Rachel, which was our digital human, and she will tell you everything about. She can guide you on completing the entire loan application, can answer all the mortgage questions. Of course, mortgage is highly regulated, so she could not answer questions for you for which you need license. But other than that, it was way more evolved than some of the avatars that I see now. So it was well beyond chatbots and all of that. At a time when I said generative AI was not even a word that
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
thought.
This is before whenever OpenAI or ChatGPT
Yeah,
kind of broke onto the large thing. You were like how many years ahead of that?
this was 2020, so we
So
built this
well ahead of that.
so much
Okay.
so that when I had to make changes to it, I had to find a developer in New Zealand because I could not find anyone in the US or India, where I sometimes work with developers, is because they said we have no experience working on digital humans. This is not a concept that we are aware of. But thankfully, someone referred me to someone who was doing some pioneering work in the field at that time, and we could take their help. So, and then most recently, in terms of again talking about innovation, we built InstaRefi, a company which, again, one of the biggest pain that we saw in our InstaMortgage business was that when we closed the loan, none of the homeowners knew exactly when is the right time to refinance. They had to watch the market constantly when the rates are dropping. They had to watch their home value, which is impossible for someone who has a full-time job,
It's
probably a
very
couple of
difficult.
kids.
Yeah.
It's not their job, and we are in the industry. So we built an automatic alert platform that, say, if you should refinance now, it'll alert you almost within 30 minutes of that
Wow.
opportunity being created. Again, a first of its kind and only technology platform that exists, which,
Right.
I mean, technically everyone who holds a mortgage needs it,
Yeah.
because everyone wants their mortgage to be monitored 24/7 for that potential opportunity. So that's I think has been the journey. Of course, we have grown a lot on the mortgage side. We were named the fastest growing mortgage company by several leading names like Inc. and Financial Times and Deloitte, but also I think on the back of some very serious technological innovations that we've done.
Yeah. Well, so let me just backtrack a little bit. So you're launching and pioneering mortgage applications, I guess, in the beginning with your Insta Mortgage, right? Now you have the other reiterations of that. So all I'm hearing is, I'm filtering this information. I'm hearing a lot of data. This is data, 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 data. It's not on paper anymore. Now we're moving to the cloud, right? And this is a regulated industry, right?
Very, yeah.
So potentially that means a lot of audits, right? It means a lot of audits. It means a lot of compliance that is involved here. But it also means protecting that data, right? Because if your customer's data is now becomes in your possession and you're liable. So tell me a little bit about that. Have you had to deal a lot with during your career with issues that relate to protecting data and customers from breaches and different incidents?
Yeah. So an ideal industry really for cybersecurity, information security, whatever you call it, is because there is a lot of sensitive data, not just data. There could be industries where they have data, but no one cares. It's fine. If someone has your email, what's the worst they can do? They'll probably send you some spam emails or something. Here we are talking about information that you may not remember. You would probably not know what your bank balance is. You would probably not remember what your, say, tax returns say. But as a mortgage lender, we know all of that. In fact, there are times when we tell our borrowers, look, your credit report is showing that you have a collections on this account, and they didn't know. They were like, we left the apartment and we bought this home and didn't realize there was one electricity bill or something that we didn't pay, and now that's showing in collection. So all of this data that cannot go out. These are the most sensitive. Other than your health records, maybe these are your financial records.
Yeah,
and they're equally sensitive from that perspective. So from an industry perspective, you're right. Protecting this data becomes important. And in the beginning, we didn't see much. 2008, I started business, and I would say almost for a solid 10 years, there wasn't much of anything at all. We did not talk about information security too much. It seemed as if everything was protected. It wasn't such a big deal. And then what we have seen over the last 4 or 5 years is that you see a phishing email almost on a daily basis, sometimes multiple of them. Sometimes someone is spoofing your email. So I had my executive assistant at one time saying that she was buying some gift cards because I asked her to. And it's like, what gift cards? And I was traveling at that time. And she's like, oh, didn't you just send me an email that we have to send like $100 or whatever $1,000 gift card to someone?
So someone impersonated you, emailing her saying, "Hey, send those."
Emailing my executive assistant is
and
that,
that's exactly what happens.
You're supposed, and then we have seen all kinds of things. Oh, I have your personal data. If you don't send me a Bitcoin for something, they will send an email spoofing your email saying, look how I was able to spoof your email. That shows that I know your password. I know everything about you.
Yeah.
And there is so much more. It's just that you're almost in that catch-up mode in terms of, okay, so someone, and we had one instance which was pretty crazy. And our borrower was actually, the funny thing, probably not the funny side of it, but he worked for Yahoo, and he worked in information security. He was director of information security or something of a similar title at Yahoo. And he was our borrower. He was supposed to wire, I think, $34,000 or something at closing. And he goes to the bank, he wires the funds. He texts me saying, I wired the fund. And I said, okay, where did you wire it? He said, yeah, I'll send you the details. And we look at it and we're like, that's not where you were supposed to wire. Where did you get that wiring information from? He said, it came from your processor. I have an email that shows that you sent, you or your team sent that wiring information that was supposed to be sent. And I was like, that's not the title company you were supposed to wire. Thankfully, he did that when he had just stepped out of his bank. And so he went back, canceled the wire. But the audience, might know that there are millions, if not billions of dollars of wrong wire transfers that happen.
Yeah.
And especially in the mortgage industry, all you have to do is really hack one of the employees' email.
Yeah, someone was following the communication, and right at the time when he received banking instructions,
right at the time when it's like, okay, I need to send the wire.
Yep.
Now you use that person's email to send, hey, here's the updated wiring information, or here's the wiring information, and you don't question it, is because it did not come from a new email address. Like suddenly it's not as if
Yep.
I've been talking to Shashank and some George is emailing me. Then you
Yeah.
might get a little, let me first confirm that this George is the
Yeah.
right guy.
Yeah.
But if it comes from Shashank's email, you're like, okay, I've been talking to him for 30 days now.
Exactly.
Now it's time to
Exactly.
close. And I actually had an employee who joined us who told us a story, exactly the same story. But in this case, the down payment was $150,000 and the money was lost. He
Yep.
found out when he came to the title company later for signing his closing documents and said, "Oh, my down payment must already be in your account." And they're like, "What money?" They didn't have them.
Yep.
And this is not an isolated
Terrible.
story. This
No.
happens almost on a daily basis, multiple times
Yes.
across the industry.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm saying. This has become highly sophisticated in terms of what they do. I've had instances where
Yeah.
someone called on our behalf saying, "We are calling from Instamortgage." Multiple of our clients getting
Yep.
calls. "I need your mortgage details. I need this."
Yep.
And so, yeah, and I can go on and on, really.
Yeah. So let's bridge this over into AI because, going back into the days when you pioneered basically an agent like to help people, and how much has progressed in the last, even 5 years with AI. The level of impersonation now, it's incredible. And here's a really good example. Let's say you have someone who is jumping in the middle of that communication between all these parties and they send the wrong banking information. In the past, one of the ways we would detect, or our systems would detect emails like that, would be maybe a little bit the English would be off, maybe
Yeah.
those would be
Uh,
characteristics, and so it
yes.
would trigger some controls, so some defenses. But now with AI, those emails can be proofread, they can be edited, they can come in a perfect English. So there goes up in the air all of our defenses when it came to that type of protection. So tell us a little bit about your journey in AI, because now that also opens opportunities for good, but from my perspective, also some opportunities for abuse and fraud. But just give us a little bit of your perspective on AI. You've written a book on it, and how did you bridge from mortgages into AI?
Yeah, good question. By the way, the book is called Let AI Be Your Coach. As I said, it's available everywhere. The books are sold in multiple global markets. The AI transition for me was really, I was looking at it from a productivity gain perspective. Is that what we could do, creating that digital human? So really, the two focus was productivity gain for the team and a better consumer experience for our consumers, and how we can do that with AI. So creating digital human was not so much a productivity gain, but more from a better consumer experience. So they could talk to Rachel at any points in the day or night. They did not have to wait for our loan officer to respond at a certain time of the day, and they could get most of their basic answers at least answered through that. What helped is that we had hundreds, if not thousands, of blogs that can be used to train it. So our knowledge base was already very, very strong. There was a very deep layer of content that was already created,
Mm-hmm.
and our digital human were just using that knowledge base to power her knowledge, so to say, from that perspective. So that definitely helped. Moving over to when generative AI, OpenAI came out, and generative AI became slightly more mainstream, I also started seeing as a productivity gain for my team. So we build platforms where they can create content much faster. They can go through thousands of pages of mortgage guidelines in seconds. We also used AI coach to help them
Mm-hmm.
get better in terms of sales training, compliance training, and all of that. And that has resulted into almost documented 60-65% productivity slash efficiency gain for our team. But coming to and by the way, that's all that's there in the book, is that I wanted to write a book which is not just principles and theories and potentials and pitfalls of AI, but really hardcore. If I want to start today, or if I
Examples.
have only
Yeah.
done something, the book is full of case studies, prompts, guides,
Mm-hmm.
ideas, tactics. So this is really a hands-on book. This is more a guide than a book itself. So
Mm-hmm.
someone wants to really use AI and go through a book and gain instant productivity gain, they will be able to get it. But some of the risks that I also speak on AI at conferences across the country, and one of the first ones that I spoke to when 11 Labs had just come out, and they were doing that you can record your voice and it can create your voice replica after
Yep.
that. And one of the threats or challenges that I talked about at that time is that imagine tomorrow somebody can call your borrower saying, "Hey,
Yes.
this is Shashank calling."
Yep.
and your social was wrong on the application, it seems. What's your correct social? And while I have you on the phone, can you confirm your date of birth as well? Or
Yep.
whatever that personal information is. I mean, they would listen to that voice. And by the way, they can take a podcast like this, so where I'm speaking for
Yes.
20 minutes, can create my voice
Not even
clone.
20 minutes, I believe.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe
Now
now
you can
need
do
a
it with
sample like
90
literally
seconds.
seconds. Yes.
Literally.
Yep.
Yeah, because I created my I was doing some work on HeyGen, which creates human avatar.
Yep.
Same thing that we created like well before all this technology came. But now you can have visual, like someone can receive a video from me
Yep.
saying that, hey, I was reviewing a loan application. These 3 documents are missing. Can you send in on this email that for
Yep.
you, or whatever, or this link that I created just for you, and you can.
Yep.
So all of these challenges, I was telling you about how things have escalated in the last 4 or 5 years, and we are not even seeing anything yet, major at least, coming out of AI spoofing of or cloning of people's voices and faces. And we can only imagine. I mean, if people remember the story at the 2024 presidential election, somebody spoofed President Biden's voice and
Yep.
collected, I think, 5 million in donation or something until FBI was able to catch up on it. So
Yeah.
if someone can do it at that large scale, cloning
Yeah.
the president's voice and getting
Yes.
people to donate and collect all of that money, you can only imagine. I mean, you and I are mere mortals. We don't have FBI and CIA trying to
Right.
track all of this for us.
Yeah, the concerns run on many different levels. There's that national level, there's the everyday level, but like some of the examples you were giving before, it's at that moment you realize, wait, who am I for someone to be monitoring my communication and all of a
Yeah.
sudden jump in? Well, you have an asset. Everyone who has an asset after that, right? Obviously, criminals are like parasites. They're not creating anything of value. They're going to go after someone who has something of value to extract it somehow and abuse it, right? So from your perspective, you're writing a handbook or guide for entrepreneurs, from what I'm understanding, from business people.
Yes.
And with that, would you have a word of caution or words of caution as to how this could be potentially misused or somehow use it? Yeah. Like, for example, you have the information security. We have one of the threats is insider threat. Somebody who is inside of the organization and they all of a sudden become disgruntled employee or whatever they have. And so they are now the inside person who's already within the company, and maybe they have access through AI through a 1,000-page document and quickly can extract that information. Otherwise, it would take him more time, right? Have you run into situations where you or friends of yours have had a major breach and that brought to a business disruption?
Yeah, and it's pretty common. I mean, ransomware is pretty common in mortgage space. Thankfully, I shouldn't say thankfully. It's thankfully for us. They usually target much larger organizations because, of course, they can collect millions in ransom. We are not that big. We are a smallish company, and we don't run into that kind of a scale. But breaches are fairly common, and you get impacted by breaches, which does not even happen to you. Equifax has a breach. That impacts you, that impacts your borrowers from that perspective. Even simple emails like emails coming from title companies saying, hey, this is your instruction for your closing documents or something. As you rightly said, it's so realistic now with email signatures and logos, and it's nearly impossible for people to think unless your mind is, and a lot of our people are extremely busy. They're working on dozens of loans at the same time. So they're not every time they open the email, they're not looking at it from a perspective of, could this be phishing? Because they're like, okay, I need to get so much done. And this seems from somebody that I've been speaking to for a while. So no breaches for us, thankfully, that we have not reached that. But breaches in the industry and people that I know, I mean, happens all the time.
Well, and you're right. It almost like AI, the rise of AI, also the rise of cryptocurrency, and those two things have just changed the landscape tremendously. Because back in the day, 10 years ago, when none of those things were there, the world looked one way. Now we have the cryptocurrency, a way of payment digitally, as well as AI. And it becomes a pretty toxic soup, I would say.
It is. I'm doing a class on blockchain and cryptocurrency at Harvard as part of my second master's right now. And the professor who has been with very large companies and regulators, really accomplished in this. And that's what he was saying, is that on a good day, you have 15 minutes.
Yes.
when the money is sent and you're trying to track it. There have been, of course, on the crypto side, multiple tens of millions, even 100 million breaches that has
Yep.
happened.
Yep.
And 15 minutes on a good day is what you have to track it.
Yeah.
And on a bad day, you could lose it much faster.
Yeah.
So that's, as you said, takes the game to a completely different level. In this case, for example, when my client wired the money, you could still go back to the bank and say, hey,
And he
because
was
the
lucky
banks,
because, as you know, if money leaves, if he had
yeah,
waited even maybe 1 hour
yeah,
and it changes hands, it's nearly impossible for
it is.
anybody to get those money back.
It is, yeah.
It's the way the
Even the
banking
wire, I
system
mean,
works.
the only time you can get lucky is that sometimes bank sends wires in batches, like every 15 minutes or 30 minutes. So you have that window that if you've not that sent it, you
Yep.
can still pull it back. But once it goes out, it goes out. There's
That's
no
it.
way to pull the wire
Yep.
back. And in world of cryptocurrency, it's even impossible
Yep.
with anonymous wallets and those wallets getting transferred with an already supplied logic to multiple different wallets in
Yep.
that it can go to. So yes, it has from an information slash cybersecurity perspective. I think we are just getting into the dark ages. If I thought last 4 or 5 years has gotten so much worse
Yeah.
with everything that's possible, and now it's not. The way I see it is that now it's not that capital intensive to try and target even smaller companies, because they can say, okay,
Yeah.
we're not going to get millions from them, but we can target thousands of them for, say, even tens of thousands of dollars, because it doesn't cost us that much to spoof that
Exactly.
voice, to spoof that face. So
Exactly.
that's where I see the major risk for even companies of our size moving forward.
Yeah, it becomes an economies of scale problem as well on the evil side, as well as it's a great opportunity for
Yeah.
AI on the good side. But I was going to say, we can't live in fear. And part of what I like to do is just to bring hope to this whole conversation,
Yes,
and
of course.
the hope here is it's kind of hope against darkness, as you said, in a sense that people who hear the story, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm never refinancing again. You can't do that, right? You can't just because of a bad story, right? The
Sure.
point here is like raise the awareness level and realize that there are multiple threats, and that are related to anything of value. Money, information is very
Yes.
valuable, right?
Mhm.
And so if we can just kind of bring it to a close here, from your perspective, you as a business or an entrepreneur, you probably have a trusted cybersecurity professional or someone who works with you. What would you say to a business owner who doesn't have a trusted advisor next to them to kind of advise them on how do we protect this data? How do we protect the business? What would you think of someone who is kind of negligent in that space?
It's an absolute mandatory requirement. I mean, it's a survival requirement now. My entire point of saying that this is only just about it getting worse, and AI will fuel it more, is two things. One, it makes the smaller companies, as I said, more susceptible to this. And two is that the fact that because it makes it more susceptible. If you thought that you were in an industry or a business which doesn't have to worry about too much, understand there's money involved in every kind of
Yeah.
industry. You have bank accounts, you have money is moving
Yep.
here and there, you have wires, you have payments that you're making, you have vendors that could be spoofing an invoice that's being sent to you. So it's not as if you need to be in a highly data intensive or sensitive industry like
Exactly.
mortgages or real or healthcare. You could be in any, money is involved in any industry that is. And I wouldn't, of course, conduct my business without having someone professional manage this, is because we are beyond a point of time. That's why I said first 10 years of the business, when I started, I barely even thought about it. There were
Yeah.
a few phishing emails. It was so obvious, as you said, the spellings were completely off. All of that was,
Right.
I mean, even then, we all know that still millions of
Yeah.
people fell for it. But with some kind of basic training, you could probably spot some of those things.
Yes.
It has become highly evolved. It will get even worse in the future, and that's why, I mean, if I was starting my business, or if I were in the business, that's one of the partners that I would look for right
Yeah.
off the bat. Not to mention that for most of the business now it's even a regulatory requirement that you have such policies and such people who are
Yeah.
there to manage it. And even if it's not, as I said, I can't even imagine running a business without
Yeah,
security
well,
expert
you
on our side.
mentioned things of value, which money is only one of them. How about reputation? I mean,
Yes,
reputation.
exactly.
Imagine being
Yeah,
a business, any kind of business, and all of a sudden someone takes over your infrastructure, and now they, like you said, impersonate you, and
yeah,
now they're sending phishing emails from your
yeah,
accounts. I mean, your reputation goes up in the sky, and all of a sudden people are like, "Well, I don't know if this person's got their act together. I don't know if I
yeah,
should do business with them." Right?
yeah.
So reputation becomes a big issue as well. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure just meeting you and getting to know more about you. I've read about your story and it's been pretty fascinating. You've been very successful in what you've done. I'd love to have you on again and talk more about AI because it seems like you're a very pragmatic guy. Like you actually get down to the bottom of which I love pragmaticism. So hopefully down the road we can do another podcast specifically on AI and talk more about that. Any closing words for our audience, which is mostly hopefully business owners like yourself, entrepreneurs, anything that you like to say to them when it comes from your perspective?
No, as entrepreneurs, we put in a lot of blood and sweat to build what we build, and so from that perspective, it's as in P&L, you have your revenue, but you have your expenses. So just saying that, oh, I have a certain revenue does not cut it if your expenses exceed that or expenses are higher than that. Similarly in business, I mean, you take so much time and effort to build something, make sure that your reputation is intact, even if it's an outside player that does the misdeed, you are at the end of the day is seen as somebody who's probably made some mistake
Exactly.
doing that. So from protecting yourself, just like we buy insurance
Yeah.
for our errors and omission and all kinds of things, I
Yep.
will say this is more than insurance because
Yeah.
this is protects you from financial risk, protects you from reputation risk, and especially in this day and age, that's something that my closing word will be something that you should seriously look into. Of course, I mean you are an expert and they can
Yeah.
consider you or someone else, but that's what I would say is that yeah, of course, put your time into building your business. That's what we all do. I think we are
Build it and
trained to do
protect it.
that. Yes, but at the same time you can't just be looking at revenue and not look at
Yeah,
expenses. Just the way
absolutely.
you manage your P&L, that's how you should manage the asset that you have created.
I love it. I absolutely love it. As my mentor, Evan Francine says, the language of business is accounting. So if there is
Yes,
if there's an impact on accounting, it's a business
yes,
issue, right? And so
of course.
cybersecurity also, it gets translated as a business risk. And so I really appreciate that. Thanks so much for spending half an hour here. And thanks to all of you who are tuning in. I appreciate your help in getting the word out. This is the business entrepreneur, business owner friendly podcast on all things information security, how to protect the business, even as Shashank has just reminded us. Check us out on executivesolutions.us. And would love to talk to you how you can protect your business. Thanks so much, Shashank. God bless, and hopefully talk to you soon again.